everyone, a very good evening, and I welcome you all to this free live session that's hosted for you exclusively by TalentSprint. As you're all aware that the topic that we have for today is generally terror for most of the students, right? Because Parajumbles is one particular question type that generally leaves the students jumbled up. I'm sure at least 50% of you would agree with what I just said. But is that true of Parajumbles? How many of you really think that Parajumbles is one of the most difficult question types and it's best to skip the question? Well, how often can you skip it? Well, the only thing that we're going to discuss as a part of this session is, of course, a few general myths about Parajumbles. What are the myths and what is the fact? Let's understand that. Discuss a few techniques, a few hints that will help you get clues to unjumble the Parajumbles. And of course, we'll take one or two examples to see how we can apply what we've applied, right? So I can see a couple of you have already logged in. Again, I welcome you all to this live session. And as you're all aware, we host a public free live session every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. So do log in every Wednesday at the same time to look or to see certain interesting sessions. You know that we've been doing it for a while. We have our students also who log into this, and in addition to our students who've been part of our learning program, we also have it open to the public, for free. So keep looking forward, do look forward to these sessions every Wednesday, right? Okay, now before we start discussing the various techniques, you're all aware it's a 1-hour session. So what I have in mind for today's session is, as I just gave you an overview, I'm going to take some very simple examples, 1 or 2 examples, see the usage of the hint that I'm talking about so that you can understand how to apply. For example, in a Parajumble, of course, all of you know the first thing that we have to do is identify the topic sentence correctly. But then what is it that helps us identify? Now, identifying a topic sentence could be a cakewalk for 90% of you, right? But what follows next is something that leaves most of us jumbled up, all right? Believe me, maybe a couple of years back, as I was working more on the modules, even as a faculty, I used to struggle with questions on Parajumbles. But then slowly, as you practice, as you understand, as you unjumble the techniques, the tricks, you get rid of the fear, you get rid of the worries, and you start solving them very simply. All right, so that's a brief introduction to taking this question type easily. The process that I'm going to follow, I'm going to do a couple of things, use the whiteboard, and of course, we'll also share the screen where I have a couple of examples for you. That's going to be a reference for you, all right? Okay, the first thing that I wanted to discuss today are the certain myths that actually go with Parajumbles, okay? What are Parajumbles? All of you know, with obviously the SSC CGL just around the corner. I'm sure this is not a question that I should be asking. What is the Parajumble? Very simple, couple of sentences where the order has been jumbled up and you have to put them in a sequence to form a meaningful paragraph, right? It's as simple as this, right? But then, is it really as simple as this? Well, yes. If you know the tricks, it could be simple. So let's move on and let's hope that after today's session, you will get rid of some bit of the fear, because most of our students who are a part of our online program know how we approach Parajumbles. On and off, every time a notification is out, we conduct a lot of refresher sessions and we discuss questions based on the exam interface. So that certainly helps them learn a lot more on different topics, different question types, etc. But for all of you who are new today, maybe referred by your friends who've just logged in as a free public viewer, hopefully these tips could help you. And maybe you could always log into www.talentsprint.com/ bank. I'm going to give these details at the end of the session for you to refer to in case you would like to know more. You can always enroll with one of the finest programs that we have, and then look forward to getting successful in your dream careers. Okay, let's move on now. So as I just said, the first thing is what we're going to discuss today are the myths that generally go with Parajumbles. All right, so what are the myths? The first one, as all of you can see it on the screen, that the Parajumbles are the most difficult questions in the English section, right? So unless you get rid of that myth, the fact is any question gets difficult if you haven't practiced enough, and even the most difficult question becomes easy when you know the tricks and the techniques, like most of our students who enrolled for our program know. Okay. Second myth, options are the only saving grace. Well, not always we need to rely on options. Without even looking at options, you will be able to unjumble it. So some of you who think that only with the help of options we can go ahead and solve a question on Parajumble, that's not true. And the third myth, there could be many, but generally what I hear from students and what I know from how our students feel, I have compiled these 3 myths about Parajumbles. Now, you don't need to be good in vocabulary for Parajumbles. Some of them think that only to solve vocabulary related questions, we need to know vocabulary, we need to know root words, we need to know about transition words, etc. That's not true, because vocabulary, a good knowledge in vocabulary always helps you, be it a close passage, be it reading comprehension, or be it about Parajumbles. All right, so you cannot rule out that a good command in vocabulary is not an advantage. Okay, you have to agree that a good command on the language, in vocabulary, certainly adds to your benefit. Okay. All right, that's the first example that I have for you. You have A, B, C, D, E, F. You have 6 sentences. Okay, I hope the screen is visible to all of you. If I can get a yes from you, I think I can proceed with a lot more confidence and ease, right? Because I hope the screen is nice and clear to all of you, okay, so that we can quickly discuss. Now, in this particular question, first and foremost, remember a few things, all right? It's very, very important. All right, thank you so much, Jagdish, Mukesh, Shalu. Okay, Gun says no. All right, Gun, so I think you'll have to, since most of you, the Swagata, Pragyam, most of you say yes, probably Gun, you'll have to look at maybe certain settings on your system. Okay, so Ankit, I think most of you, Pallavi, everybody says yes. Okay, so I will go with the majority. So I think Gun or Gun, okay, I'm not sure how's it pronounced, but hopefully I've got it right. So you can just check your settings or maybe just refresh the page. Hopefully you get it right, okay? All right, now looking at this particular example, he accumulates some capital and goes into a business venture. Now, first and foremost, you know that there are certain techniques to identify the theme sentence. Now, how do we identify the theme? How do we identify the theme? You have to look for the sentence, okay? You have to look for the sentence in the available options, which clearly introduces maybe a person, a place, or maybe a group, a committee, etc., or even a concept for that matter, because topic could, a group of sentences can be picked up from any genre, okay? It could be a story, it could be some data, it could be fictional, it could be non-fictional, it could. So you will have to understand what is being talked about, what is the theme, etc. Okay, so first and foremost, identifying the theme sentence, the topic sentence is very important. You know that the topic sentence usually introduces the subject. Now here, what is the theme for this? The theme in this case, if you just notice, we see that there's a tailor, we see, we're talking about a Russian tailor and how he goes ahead and he opens a shop, all right? So his entire struggle. So basically, the whole, I would say, if you can just say from A to F, and if you want to identify the theme of this particular paragraph, you can say that it talks of the struggle of a tailor, and obviously how he struggles, how he goes step by step, and he overcomes all the hurdles, anything that can act as a bottleneck, and finally be successful. Okay, so that is the theme. So it's important to identify the theme of a paragraph. Okay, first and foremost, once you identify the theme, it's very easy to weave it through an order. Okay, so that's how we identify the theme. Now here, in this case, which is the sentence that introduces the subject here? The sentence that is introducing the subject here is F. So we know that F, we're talking about a Russian tailor. Okay, we're talking about a Russian tailor. Now, what comes after this is what we need to see. Now, we talk of a Russian tailor artisan who comes to America, takes to the needle trade, works in sweatshop for small salary. Now, what does he do? Now, sweatshop, try to see if there's any link to the sweatshop. Okay, then we can say that E is what follows F. Okay, because he as a pronoun, I'm going to take that also as an example, how we can take the pronouns as clues, how we can take the connectives as clues. But let's quickly take one example before we get into a few details of the clues that we can draw from a paragraph. Okay, so here we're talking about the Russian tailor. Once we've introduced the Russian tailor, just to avoid the repetition of the subject, we cannot be saying a Russian tailor each time. We replace it with a pronoun. Okay, so here we're talking about the garments again. What does he do with the garments? From the sweatshop, he takes it with the help of his wife and he finishes it at home. So E obviously follows F. Okay, now what follows this? All right. Now, if you can notice in this particular example, all right, since we identified the theme of this particular paragraph where the struggle of a tailor is shown from how he starts and how he finally opens a shop for himself. All right. So obviously, if you apply logic, you know that you cannot open a shop unless you've raised funds to open it. Okay. So obviously, the opening of the shop has to be the concluding sentence. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So C very obviously appears like a concluding sentence. Okay. So let's put C in the end. Okay. So this is 6. This is 1 and 2. All right. Now what comes after E? Okay. So we're done with F, E, and we've also identified that C is the concluding sentence. So out of A, B, D, how do we get the sequence? Okay. Now, after E, he's still hired by somebody else, right? He's working for a particular shop. So obviously he'll get some salary. So in order to increase his salary, he works through the night. What he does to earn more. All right. So unless he's earned, he cannot accumulate. So obviously after E, B follows logically. All right. So that's the third. Then after B, what comes? Very clearly, we can say that what does he do? Okay. He takes the garments and sells it on New York streets. So once the garments are ready, what does he do? He sells it on New York streets, right? So B, then followed by D. And then once he's done all of it, whatever he earns from it, he accumulates some capital and goes into a business venture with his son. So that logically fits after D. So if you notice, F, E, B, D, A, C forms the right sequence. How many of you have got it right? Vikram, Mugesh, F, E, B, D, A, C is the right sequence for this particular example that I just took up. Okay, have you got it right? So how did we identify? Now, this is a very simple technique, okay, where you identifying the theme, and because this looks like a logical series of activities, okay, it's very important. Once you've identified the topic sentence, it's very important to also identify or track the activities, okay? Track the activities. What does it mean? Like in this case, I gave you the example. Tracking activity would mean opening his own shop would obviously mean that he has to collect funds. So C certainly cannot be anywhere in the beginning. That has to be the concluding sentence. Okay. Now again, Noor, Moeen, the first thing that I told you was, please throw this out of your mind that Parajumbles is a very confusing question type. The moment you keep bothering yourself, the moment you let this thought stay in your mind, you will never be able to unjumble these questions. Okay. So do not bother yourself thinking that I'm unable to understand, thinking that I can't do, etc. Look forward with an open mind. I'm sure you will be able to do it. Okay. More and more practice will certainly make you better. All right. Let's move on, where I'm going to also discuss how prepositions act. How we can use articles, how we can use connectives as hints. Okay. Right. So the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about was, how do we use articles? How can we refer to articles as a hint? Okay. Articles, you all are aware. What are the three articles that we have? We have a, an, and the, right? You all know that there are three articles. A and an form the indefinite articles, and the refers to the definite article. But let's now see how can we apply this and use this as a hint to follow the sequence, or to draw out the activity sequence in a parajumble. Okay, absolutely. Vikram, you got it right. A, an, and the are the three articles. I think this is a simple question. But the thing that we're going to learn is, how do we use this in parajumble as a clue to form a sequence? Okay, let's see how to do that. I'll come back to connectives, but let's first see the usage of articles. As we rightly identified, I think Ankit, Noor, and Mukesh, and many others. Okay. No problem, Shubrang. I think good. No problem. I think you're getting it right. The sequence, you've got it right. You can give yourself a star like we do during our sessions. And for all of you who do not know, you know that whenever you get a question right, we give a star. If I miss giving a star, because obviously I can't reach out to all of you to give a star, I give a common star to all of you who get the question right. Okay, so you can give yourself a star. Now, usage of articles, as I just mentioned, how do we do it? Now, in this particular question, you know what is being talked about in this, on the screen, you see from A to E, set of 5 sentences. How will you put it in a sequence? Okay. Now, the moment you see this, you know that we're just talking about something, related to hit and run case. Okay. Cases, you must have heard about hit and run cases. So this particular passage or the paragraph that we have is one of those examples. But what has happened? We have jumbled up the sequence. Okay. So let's move and see how we can apply this. All right. Now, first and foremost, how do we use the articles? Okay. Let's quickly understand. The police suspect it. You know that it, something has already been talked about. Now, yesterday past midnight, a speeding car hit and ran over 5 pedestrians, killing 2 of them instantly and leaving 3 critically injured. From this, you can understand that this is the the main sentence, the topic sentence. Okay, it's been all right. That's interesting. I think Vikram says it's the Salman case. Yes, it is the Salman case, but we never went into that depth of solving a parajumble on Salman's case. But yes, hit and run is a case of what Salman Khan and many others also who've done. All right. So let's take and see. Now, first and foremost, as you see this article, I want all of you to identify which are the articles, okay? And then see, because I'm going to not solve this question for you, I'm going to ask you, and you are going to solve the question for me, okay? So, right, the first, the police suspected, no. The driver of the car is absconding, yes. Yesterday past midnight. So B appears to be a topic sentence. All right. B is a topic sentence where you know that a speeding car hit. The entire situation is now clear to you. All right. And 5 pedestrians were killed, etc., etc. Now what happens after this? Now you have to understand what as I mentioned earlier, is called activity tracking. Now, the moment you read this, what is it next that comes to your mind? Okay. Now, the driver of the car is absconding. Okay. So, obviously, now the next thing that comes to your mind is, where's the driver? Okay. So, there you get the answer to the driver of the car is absconding. Okay. This is how you get the first. This is how you get the second. Now, once B and C are done, then what? Okay, since the driver is absconding, now obviously the police suspect it to be a case of drunken driving. All right, a hit and run case and the driver absconding. Police, what the police thinks, you know, there's a lot of speculation that goes around what has happened, why anything has happened. So you have to understand that. Okay, I think Mugesh, B, C, D, A, E is what they're saying. All right. Let's see. BC. Then what happens? Yes. The police suspect it to be a case of drunken driving. Very right. Now, what happens after that? Now, obviously, once the police says something, now there's a public reaction. Okay. Because of some action, there's a reaction. Now, what is the public demanding? Severe punishment. Okay. Who've lost their dear ones. So, B, C, D, E. And then finally, A. Okay. Now, how are we using or showing the usage of articles here? That's the point that we want to learn, not to get just the sequence, because for practice we have, I have about two fairly more difficult questions, but for you to understand how to identify. Now, yesterday past midnight, a speeding car, here is an article, okay, which is an indefinite article. Ran over 5 pedestrians, killing 2 of them instantly and leaving 3 critically injured. So, you're not specifying a particular car in this particular sentence. So, you know that an indefinite article is used to represent some information the very first time. Okay, and this is obviously there's a consonant sound following it. So, the usage of a. Okay. Next. After that, what happens? Now the driver of the car is absconding. Now you see the driver of the car. Once you've mentioned a speeding car, then you're talking about the driver of that particular car. Now comes the definite article. Okay. In B, you see the usage of A, but in C, you see the usage the as a definite article. Okay, where you say the driver. Now here, which driver are we talking about? We're talking about the driver of that particular car which hit the pedestrians. Okay, then again the car. All right, then again the police. Of course, you're referring to the entire department of fraternity, all the people involved in investigating, etc. Here we're referring to them as the police. Okay, suspected to be a case of drunken driving. Now here again you are introducing drunken driving, so an indefinite article okay, again. Then a case, that's an a case because that's the first time police is saying something new, so indefinite article. Now comes public demands severe punishment for the families who have lost their dear ones. Okay, now B, C, D. Then again in E, what happens? Okay, in E, what happens? Right, for E, what do you see? Severe punishment for the families. Again, the. Okay, you're referring to the families who lost their dear ones. All right. And then again, A hit and run case usually has a 10-year jail term as punishment in India. So here you're giving a common concluding statement that, okay, a hit and run case usually has a 10-year jail term. So after this, if you want to say, well, the driver was given a 10-year jail term, or the driver of that particular incident was given a 10-year jail term, etc., would have been a proper sequence. So now I hope you understand how to use articles as a hint to also link the sequence of activities. All right, that is the point that I wanted to make. Okay, now this is what I wanted to talk about, usage of connectives. All right, what are connectives here? What are connectives? Connectives or connectors or transition words like although, but, yet, however, since, etc. There's a screen that I had just shared, which I'm going to share with you, and that gives an entire list. All right. So connectives is also another very important point or a hint or a clue. Okay. What are connectives? Examples like therefore, however, okay, since, but, yet, although, etc. Okay, so there are many, there's an entire list, but usually these connectives are not used as or in the topic sentence, okay, because most of them show either a link to something, some information mentioned previously, or showing some contrast somewhere. Now when there's a contrast, obviously something has already been mentioned before. Okay, so or yeah, like Mukesh just mentioned, or either, okay, and alternately, anything, there are many. The list just goes on. All right, so that's the point, and I'm going to also show you an example very quickly how to draw a link by identifying the connectives. Okay, because I'm sure as you all also agreed with me, sometimes you can very easily identify the topic sentence, because problem begins when the topic sentence is difficult to identify. I have one of the examples there also where you may get confused between two examples, between two sentences where both of them appear like topic sentences. That I will take it up a little later, but for now, once you've identified the topic sentence correctly, how to track the activity is what I want to talk about. Okay, so I'll give you around 30 seconds to see which are the connectives. As you can all see, although, though, if, until, since, etc. are all connectives. Right, just a minute. Okay, I gave you about 30 seconds for you to see. Like you can see, consequently, notwithstanding, meanwhile, so, however, there's an entire list. You can take a look at it. You can remember it. I'm sure most of you know it. Most of our students would know this. Okay. Let's move on to the next screen. Okay, now this is what I was talking about, emphasizing the usage of connectives. Now, just take a look at it. There are just two sentences, A and B. I want you to very quickly identify and tell me which is the topic sentence and which is the connective. Okay? Okay, I think Vikram has a question. Nevertheless. Okay, nevertheless, it's a contrasting clue word, okay, which gives the meaning of, like however, how we say. Okay, so nevertheless, suppose there's, I'll give you an example. I'm sure you'll be able to understand from that. Okay, I had to attend a party. Nevertheless, the car broke down and we could not make it. However, the car broke down and we could not make it to the party. Although you wanted to, yet you could not. Okay, so I think that's the closest that I can tell you. Okay, now, what do you think? What is the theme of these two sentences? The theme of these two sentences, as you can see, we are actually comparing the competition that the, I would say the small, I'd say the unbranded players, that is the small companies, which they are, the competition that they are putting forth to the FMCGs, okay, that is the bigger companies, all right? So have you been able to identify the I would say connective? Have you been able to identify it correctly? A obviously is the starting sentence, A and B, but the point that I'm trying to ask you is which is the connective in among these two sentences, or if you've identified which is the connective, what is it? Okay, and what is the meaning of the connective? In fact is the connective. Okay, that's the point that I was just trying to highlight. Okay, now I think Shubrang asked me a question, and Vikram also asked me a question. So let me just scroll back and see. Okay, in fact, that's right. Okay, Shubrang, it just means, I think you both wanted to know the meaning of nevertheless, right? Okay, and also notwithstanding. Notwithstanding, nevertheless, both of them actually mean, in spite of, or you can say, although, in spite of, etc. So as a conjunction or as a connective, this is how you use it. All right. In academic English, we use all of these just to add a little variety when we write articles, essays, etc. But in communicative spoken English, I think nevertheless is certainly used, but I'd say notwithstanding, etc. is not used as often as the others. All right, although they mean the same. Like although, in spite of, they're more or less synonyms, I'd say, in terms of connectives. All right, I hope that's clear to you, Vikram and others, right? Because I can see the chat going on like really fast, and for me to, I may miss something, so please pardon me if at all I miss. I will try to address your queries too as we proceed with the session. All right? Okay, so I think most of you have correctly identified, in fact, is the connective here. All right, so this is just an example for you to how to identify. So you can obviously say that A here in this case, once you've identified the theme, you can say that when you say in fact is to, when you want to emphasize a particular point. So here, what is the point that you're trying to emphasize? The point is smaller brands have challenged the giants by offering prices which attracted the value conscious Indian consumer, isn't it? So that is the point. And just to emphasize, just to add to this particular point, you've given another point to support that point, right? So in fact is again a clue word or a connective which tells you that you are going to talk with respect to the previous point that you've made. So here again, you're telling how is it that it's offering, how is it that the smaller brands are actually challenging the bigger brands? So here is how they're doing it. They're offering packs which are twice the size with similar or better quality at cheaper prices. So this is how the point that you've made, in fact, you actually proving it with the help of a particular example. All right, let's move on. I think this is clear to both of you. Molly Kumar has a question. With similar is not a connective. No, connective is like a conjunction, right? Which links. So when you say in fact, if I had said alternately, do you think alternately would mean that I'm giving an example of the previous point? No. When the moment I say contrary to or as opposed to or alternately, you know that you're giving a different point. You're not emphasizing on that particular point. But when you say in fact, in addition to emphasize, etc. So when you use words like those, you know that you are adding to that particular point. So these are the linking words, okay? So similar or better quality, here you're giving more information. Product with similar or better quality. Here you're telling this is like an adjective. It's like a comparative degree. It's a degree of comparison. Similar means maybe the same price, or a better quality at a cheaper price. ER, better. So all these are comparative degrees. We'll come to that also, how the usage of adjectives also we can use in getting the sequence right. I hope it's clear till here. Okay, let's quickly move on. Okay, so articles we've already discussed. Now very quickly, let's quickly see how the usage of pronouns. Now this is probably the simplest of all, okay? You've been doing it, and sometimes you may get confused, but I think this is easy now. Here out of A, B, C, can you very quickly Identify which is the topic sentence. That's right. B is the topic sentence. We know that we're talking about some investigation, okay, some case which probably needs investigation. So here, who's the investigator? Remington. So the subject is introduced here, right? So B is the topic sentence. Now, you see that there are two pronouns. One is a singular pronoun, which is he, and one is a plural pronoun, okay? Guys, please remember, okay, in your exam, you may get a combination of easy parajumbles and difficult parajumbles. But the reason I took these smaller, chunks is for you to understand the concept, and then I'll take an example which has about 7 sentences jumbled up so that you can understand what to apply, how to apply what you've learned. All right. And certainly this is not a regular session where we can spend 2.5 hours. It's a free live session just for you to have an idea how to approach the questions. All right. So I hope you can benefit from this session and take these few tips and get rid of your fears. Okay. So how to use the pronouns. You know that he here is a singular pronoun and they here is a plural pronoun. Now, after B, should we have they? No, because the closest, the information that you're providing with respect to Remington is what he does. Okay, so he here refers to Remington. Enlisted the support of his students and colleagues, right? So this shows how he plus all of them became they. After B follows C. Okay, C follows obviously B. And then since we have only 3 sentences, then because in the C, we have mentioned support of his students and colleagues from Oklahoma, now you know that the subject has become plural. It's not a singular subject anymore because Remington along with students and colleagues together, now they form a plural subject. Okay, so that is why we have A after that. Okay, I hope the concept of how to identify pronouns is clear to you now. All right. Well, Vikram, if time permits, I will certainly take it up for you. Maybe give you an example when we start with prepositions too. Okay. You cannot have a topic sentence starting with prepositions like besides or in spite of. Okay. So you cannot have those. You can have a sentence starting with prepositions too if you want to highlight on a particular point, but then that certainly will not be a topic sentence. Okay, I think this is what you can remember for now. Okay, if you have any particular example, you can probably share so that we can discuss it for you. Okay, right, let's move on here. So now you know how do we use pronouns as a hint to track the activity and get the sequence right in a parajumble. All right. Okay, and the last thing that I wanted to discuss before I take up an example is the usage of adjectives. Okay, how do you use adjectives? Now there are 2 sentences here. Okay, 2 sentences. Now what is the adjective here? Can you please tell me? I think the question is open to all of you. Okay, Vikram, I hope you got the answer right, but if you have a particular example in mind where you've seen a similar sentence, you can obviously bring it up and we can discuss it. All right. Okay. Okay. Now coming to usage of adjectives, the solution that you suggested was good. Now what is the adjective here? Can you good and better? All right. Perfect. I think Ria, good, Shubrang, Noor, everybody got it. Okay. Now, suppose in these 2 examples, okay, A and B, if I remove, now you know that since I've already mentioned usage of connectives, connectives generally do not form the topic sentence. You can use that, that learning and say that, ma'am, A is first followed by B, right? Will you not say it? You'll say it, isn't it? But suppose I say that however is not here. The solution that you suggested was good. Okay. How will you identify? Suppose however is not there. I want somebody to answer this question. You know, where now that you've identified good and better. Okay, good and better, you know, this is positive degree of comparison and this is comparative degree, right? You all know it. Good, better, best, beautiful, more beautiful, most beautiful, right? So that question you've answered. You've identified the adjectives. Now here, my question to you is, suppose however word is not there. Suppose in this particular example, I truncate however. Will you still, and also I truncate also, okay? Suppose also I truncate. I think Vikram, I made it a little more difficult for you now. So the solution that you suggested was good. And let me tell you now, let's say in B, I just say Ria posted a solution that I found to be better. Now, which do you think can be the topic sentence or can be the first sentence, and which one should follow what? Okay, suppose I do not have however and also. That's the point that I was just trying to make. Okay, even if you do not have connectives, even if you do not have clue words like also or in addition to, you can still look at the adjectives. Okay, so here, you know, good and better. A comparison can only be made when you have seen something before it. Yes or no, guys? That's not right. BA is not the solution. Even if I remove however and also, okay, you cannot say B is the first sentence. That's the point that I wanted to make. How to use adjectives, even if you do not have connectives, even if you do not have, you know, I would say when you have had also posted, you know, intensifiers like these, even if you do not have them, still you will be able to, you should be able to get the sequence right. Okay, so this is again, in addition to what I just discussed, like articles, connectives, then we also discussed pronouns and now adjectives. So A, B should be the sequence. Okay, A, B, not B, A. A, because obviously you see something good and you can obviously say something is better when you've already seen something good. You cannot say something is better before having seen the first one. It's as simple as that. You go to a shop, you say, well, the dress that I picked up was good. Okay, maybe I would say was good, but the one that I found in the other shop was certainly better. So that is called activity tracking, because better will always be after you get something which is good, and when you get something better than that or something else to compare it with, only then you can draw a sequence. So B should always follow A. All right, that's because of good and better. Of course, I had given you certain clue words, however, and also for you to go with it. But did you see that when I removed both of them, you got confused even for a simple set of sentences? All right, so keep this in mind, how to use adjectives too. All right, let's move on. So what are the points that we discussed? We used articles, connectives, then of course pronouns. Then we also discussed adjectives, right? Adjectives, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 techniques already. How many of you still say Parajumbles is difficult? It leaves us jumbled. Come on, guys. You can say, ma'am, it's getting easier now. Okay? So you can use these techniques while solving, you know, even questions that appear big. Now, at this point, I'd also like to tell you that sometimes do not just get confused or do not just get baffled by the long sentences, because the longer the sentence, you may think it's very difficult, but try to see if you can get to the keywords. Okay? So, all right. So, Mukesh, are you still very nervous as you were before starting the session, and others too? Okay, I think looks like people are feeling better about Parajumbles. Okay, I think one more example that I can give you for adjectives, I think which will be very apt in this particular session. Okay. Let me think of an example. Okay, there are many coaching institutes or many programs that offer coaching for bank and government exams. Okay, there are many coaching institutes. Please listen to this, guys. Okay, there are many coaching institutes that offer. I'm giving you 2 sentences. I want you to tell me which one follows which. Okay, and I'll give you a hint. You have to use just the technique that I just shared with you now. I repeat my sentence. There are many coaching institutes or programs, online programs that offer coaching for bank and government exams preparation. However, the techniques that the expert faculty of TalentSprint offers is better than any of them. Okay, did you see in these 2 sentences, how did we use pronouns? How did we use adjectives? So which sentence should follow what? Okay, which sentence should follow what? Absolutely. The B should follow A. So, perfect. There you go. All right, so I'm sure all those who've not enrolled with the program, you can go ahead and do so. All right, all your questions will be sorted. You know that we have updated sessions. The English sessions, we have also uploaded videos of the English sessions. The Hindi version of the English video lessons has been done. I mean, we are uploading them as and when they're getting done. Okay, I think 4 modules are already up for all of you. I hope you are taking advantage, because a lot of you were demanding to understand English, the explanation of the English videos in Hindi, and just to make sure that we meet the demands of our students, we worked on it. We are working a lot on the content front too. We've uploaded many recent, I'd say videos and content. Like, you know that there have been very special live sessions which were held by Rohit Agarwal, and coming week there'll be more on English comprehension, because the SSC CGL is just about a couple of weeks from now. So okay, let's quickly take one example. Okay, that's not in terms of hints, yes, these are the hints. I'll take one example where we can apply what all we learned. Okay, does that sound good to you? Okay, I think Gun is in a hurry. He says, Gun is, I'm sorry, from the name I'm unable to make out, whether I should say he or she. So, is that Gun or Gun? All right, sure. Well, there are not many more hints, because I think 4 hints is more than enough. Now let's apply these and see if you're able to do it right. Okay, so let's go ahead. Okay, let's look at this example. Okay, what example is this? Please try to understand and let me know the sequence. What is the sequence here? Okay, we know what are we talking about? We're talking about certain policies, certain repressive policies of the British government here, isn't it? Okay, Gunisha is a girl. All right. So let's very quickly identify. As I told you, we've learned 4 major hints here. Okay, articles, connectives, pronouns, adjectives, and of course, topic sentence is the first hint. So nearly 5 hints that you've got. Now let's identify, what are we talking about here? The British government. Okay, we can very quickly identify the British government. We're talking about the policy, the repressive policies, that's the keyword, of the British government, right? So C is the topic sentence, very right. Now what? Now many measures of the government. Now you're telling what happened. Now certain things, they followed certain policies, certain measures that they followed provoked widespread agitation. So, something that they did resulted in something. So obviously B is the next. We can't say D because you're saying 2 of these. 2 of what? These. 2 of what? When you say 2 of these, what are these? These are called quantifiers, right? 2 of what? 2 of these. So what are these? So obviously these refer to the many measures of the government. Okay, here these refers to the many measures of the government. So CB, once that's done, now out of the many measures which provoked widespread agitation, which are the 2 of those? Vernacular Press Act of 1878 and Arms Act of 1897. So D very logically follows, and then finally A. Now, A cannot be, because if you notice the keywords former and latter, that's the one that I wanted to say. When you say former act, again, it is an adjective, right? We just said the one which is before. Once you've mentioned two, only then you can say first and second, or the former and latter. So those are the keywords here, okay? Because you cannot say former and latter unless you've said that there are two, okay? Former means the one that has been said before, and latter is the one that follows. So those are the keywords, and that is why A follows D. Okay, so it is C, B, D, A. All those who got it, please give yourself a star. All right, so former, latter. Okay, former act. Act is the noun. In this case, we're talking about vernacular press act. That is the former, that's the first one. And arms act, you're referring. Instead of saying first and second, former and latter. Let's take one last example before we close the session today. All right, Mugesh, Pragyam, everybody. CBDA is the correct sequence. Okay, let's move on. Last example. Now this looks a little tricky, but I want you to pay attention, and I'm sure it will not be very difficult. Okay. Now here, let's see. Here I would like to echo the words of, now here, what are you talking about? That we do not know. So here cannot be a topic sentence. We have to act with conviction to realize our dream. Now, we cannot be talking of a solution. Let's look at D. We cannot be talking of a solution before mentioning the problems. Okay. Let's look at C. We Indians have to think as a nation. Again, looks like some suggestions, looks like some, some action that you need to take. Now, but what's the problem? You cannot be talking about a solution without having mentioned the problem. So we cannot say A, B, C are the topic sentences anyways. Now, again, besides these, E also we can't say is a topic sentence, right? Because besides these means leaving aside. So obviously something has been mentioned earlier. Tragically, hunger remains India's biggest lingering problem. Okay, that also tragically hunger remains, which means some India's biggest lingering problem, which means you have already talked about many other problems. So obviously, that also cannot be the topic sentence. So A, B, C cannot be the topic sentence, but if you look at E, F also cannot be the topic sentence, and even G cannot be the topic. Along with means already you should have talked of something. So D is the correct topic sentence. Okay, so D is one. It is very unfortunate that economically resurgent India still remains home to the world's largest population of poor, hungry, and illiterate. So here, what are we talking about? Some situation where you're talking about the economic situation of the country. Okay, and why is it so? So, right? Then what follows? Now we've mentioned one. Then it is very unfortunate to link to this. There are so many of those. Okay, world's largest population of poor, hungry, and illiterate people. Tragically, hunger remains India's biggest lingering problem. You mentioned two, which is illiteracy and hunger. Poverty, illiteracy, and hunger. But now you're telling which one is the most. Okay, so F follows D. Right? Now, how do we say, what's the next? Okay. Now, where is G? Now, we've talked about hunger. Now, if you see along with chronic hunger, along with, again, a connective. Now, you're connecting it to hunger. Poverty and high illiteracy also continue to blight the lives of millions of our people. So, that is 3. So, you got D, F, G. Okay, you got D, F, G. Then, after that, D, F, G. Then you have E, A, C, B left. Okay. Now, besides these, now I can say that E follows G, and I'll tell you why. Okay. E follows G because you're telling besides this. What does it mean? You're not saying besides this. You're saying besides these, because you've already mentioned chronic hunger, deep poverty, high illiteracy. These are the issues. So this is definitely a plural noun number. So here besides means in addition to these, okay? Or apart from these problems, there are other problems too, okay? Rapidly increasing population, rampant corruption, etc. So logically, E comes after G. Now we are left with A, B, and C. Then what do we do? After E, now here I would like to echo Why are you saying here? Means in this situation. So that is why after E, A looks like a sequence to what we just talked about now. All right. So after A, then comes we have to act with conviction to realize our dream, or we Indians have to think as a nation and dream to transform our country into a superpower. Now, let's see what was echo the words of firm up. Now, this is, you cannot have an action without having something to follow. So here there are words quoted by late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. A nation's progress depends on how its people think. Okay, so then comes, so how its people think. So we Indians, first you have to introduce who are we talking about. We Indians, first Indians, okay, that's the subject. You may get confused between B and C, but how would you say that it should be C first and then B? Because of the word Indians. Okay, you have to first introduce, and then when you say we, you know that you're referring to we Indians. Okay. So I told you I'm going to close the session with a long parajumble, but now that you've learned the tricks, I'm sure you'll be able to do it. So hope you guys, all those who thought that B should be before and C should be the end, now it's clear why. Okay, why not? So we Indians have to think as a nation and dream to transform our country into a superpower. Then we have to act with conviction. So the moment you just replace we Indians, okay, we Indians becomes the subject here, or the noun here, replaced by a pronoun we, where we here refers to in B to Indians. Okay, and a pronoun can never precede a noun. It has to always follow a noun. Okay, so D, F, G, E, A, C, B is the correct answer, guys. All right, right, people. So I told you, right, as I mentioned, that I'm give you certain to take examples as to how to see the application of those hints, and finally I'll close it with an example where you will see the application of all these hints. There could be certain words that could be confusing, but I'm sure now, after having seen the last example, you will be able to solve this or questions of this type with a lot more ease. Okay, so I think that should convincingly bring us to the end of this session. All right, I hope you all enjoyed watching this session, and I hope it has been a fruitful session for all our students. I think the information that I'm going to give now is not going to be of great help because they already are students, but all of you who think that you can learn more and you need to know more, because in English it's very important. It's not just English. You have obviously quant, reasoning, banking, current affairs, you know, that is shared on a daily basis, which obviously forms a very important segment. Your live sessions, doubt clarification sessions, and whatnot. Okay, so to know more, I think the answer to all your questions will be on www.talentsprint.com/bank. Okay, or alternately you can call 1-800-2000-916, right? Because with the exam just around the corner, most of you who have not enrolled yet, I assume that you must have already prepared yourself to take the examination. But just in case you think that you need the right coaching, the right suggestion, please feel free to log on to our site, and I'm sure most of your questions will be solved there, right? So I hope you enjoyed watching this session, right? Do look forward to these free live sessions which we conduct every Wednesday, like I mentioned at the beginning of the program, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Thank you so much for participating. I'll see you all soon. Good luck, guys. Bye-bye.
Hello friends, welcome to TalentSprint. Ever wondered what successful students do that you don't? What is the secret behind their success in these highly competitive exams? What is that one thing which can help you crack these competitive exams? In this session today, we are going to look at a super technique to solve frequently asked questions from percentage. So at the end of this video, you will be able to solve these type of commonly asked questions from percentages in a jiffy. Let's look at the question first. If A's salary is 25% more than that of B, then by what percentage is B's salary less than that of A?